Alexander the Great focused on avenging Persian actions against Greece, like the destruction of Athens because he had been declared strategos autocrator of the League of Corinth, a Greek alliance that was supposed to deal with the Persians. Going back to the Ionian rebellion, the Greek cities that had been conquered by the Persian Empire in Anatolia had been asking for help from the free Greeks. Athens and Eretria had helped them back then, and that was the excuse for the Persian campaigns against Greece, which ultimately failed. After their defeat at Marathon in 490 BC, the Persians sought to come back to Greece as they had only managed to conquer some islands in northern Greece. Despite the decisive victories of the Greeks at the naval battle of Salamis and the Battle of Plataea and the later counterattack against the Persian Empire, the Persians had managed to stop the Greek League of Delos by inciting and supporting civil wars in Greece, such as the Peloponnesian War. Sparta won the Peloponnesian War and established a sort of an hegemony over the Greek states, which gave them the opportunity to campaign against the Persians in Anatolia. However, again, the Persians ignited a civil war in Greece, and Sparta had to abandon the campaign and fight against other Greeks, eventually getting exhausted against Thebes. In all these maps, one can see the problem. The superpower on the right, the Persian Empire controlling some Greek cities and causing all these wars between the rest. Some may think that the destruction of Athens was an old story during Alexander's time, but the problems with the Persians persisted, and we see mentions of the invasion in the early 5th century in writings. Around the time of Alexander, complete with the suffering of Athens, an Athenian in particular, Socrates was searching for a Greek leader that would unite the Greeks in a campaign against the Persians. These were the big enemies, the only that had conquered Greek lands and threatened Greeks from time to time. Despite being repelled, the Persians were never punished. It's like Hitler never getting beaten by the Americans and the Russians. Nazis controlling Europe until the late 21st century, and wondering why the British or the French would still want to take revenge on them. Let's not forget that even before Alexander's campaign, there was Parmenion fighting in Anatolia to liberate the Greek cities there, but losing. Socrates had also pointed out that the overpopulation of Greece produced bandits that were hired as mercenaries. In the Mutlipal civil wars, if one conquered at least a part of the Persian Empire, he argued to Philip, there could be new colonies there that would act as buffer zones from new invasions and intervention from the east. This was an important reason to focus there, and indeed the Persians wouldn't invade Greece proper ever again. Roman emperors would also focus to the east quite often as a major threat, although these had faced barbarian invasions in the west and north too. There's also another thing that was important, the focus of Alexander on Persia, money. A large campaign of all of Greece would be expensive, and you would need to do it against a rich empire. Pyrrhus had issues trying to get funding for his campaigns in the west. Even though Italy and Sicily were relatively rich, Alexander was almost bankrupt when he took Anatolia and had to disband his fleet and blitz to Persia to get a decisive victory, getting the much-needed funds after the victory at Issus. When Alexander finally took the Persian throne, he returned the loot from Athens that Persians had taken, and his role as strategos autocrator and hegemon of the League of Corinth had ended, but he had enough money to pay the soldiers of the League to now fight as mercenaries. So money was also an issue. Although in his letter to Darius he obviously didn't say, I want your empire's money, but rather that he wanted revenge for the wrongs the Persians had done upon Greece. But indeed, Alexander did fulfill his duties on avenging the Persians for their destruction of Athens, Eretria, Ionian cities, etc.